Thank you, Mr. Swinden, for giving us that remarkable glimpse into the history of California and Orange County, a recurring theme of which is that water scarcity is inextricably intertwined with our history. And this idea of how we manage it, how we acquire it, how we control it, how we harvest it, store it, and deliver, how we clean it and preserve it for the public trust is a sacred duty. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Joan Rose. Joan is the first Clarke Prize laureate I ever met. After I took the helm here at NWRI, and not only is she remarkable for her intellectual gravitas, which is also matched by a smile that can light up a room. And I know that smile on your gravitas endear you to your students, but to a guy who was looking to just connect with somebody in his new world, I can't tell you how much it meant to me to meet you at AESB and realize, okay, now I'm off. I've checked one of my boxes and now I'm working. But the other thing it does is Joan has been able to connect with not just students, but her colleagues in academia, with regulators, utility executives, and politicians. And let me assure you that even though she makes it look easy, it's not. And here I should mention that she is also the 2016 recipient of the Stockholm Water Prize. And for those of you who don't know, the Stockholm Water Prize is the world's most prestigious water award. It's in effect the Nobel Peace Prize for water. Joan is a global water science expert. She's the Homer Nolan Chair in Water Research at Michigan State University and was recognized by the Stockholm International Water Institute for research in microbial risk to human health and water, her successful translation of the science to water policymakers, and for her leadership in developing tools and guidelines required to give policy and regulatory life to that science. She also nominated this year's winner, Charles Haas. So without any further ado, Joan Rose.
Thank you so much. And James, thank you. Wow, two strong women who led this prize, but thank you, James, and your wife, because you continue that passion, and we really appreciate it. And we also appreciate all the utilities and other people that support this. It's really a great honor, and this is also a well-recognized prize worldwide, I have to tell you. So it is my great honor to introduce Dr. Charles Haas to you all as the winner of the 2017 Clarke Prize. And this is for his creation of quantitative microbial risk assessment, the framework and the data that supports the linkages between science, engineering, and policy for ensuring drinking water and reclaimed water safety worldwide. Got his bachelor's at Illinois Institute of Technology in '73 and his master's there. Did his Ph.D. at the University of Illinois in 1978. And he actually started his assistant professorship right away, but he made his way to Drexel University by 1991, where he now holds the Betts Chair Professor of Environmental Engineering. And he's actually the department chair of the Civil and Architectural Environmental Engineering department there. Now, here is a scientist that has always crossed boundaries, was doing transdisciplinary work before there was a name for it. How many people do you know that cross biology, disease, math, engineering, and policy? Not too many people. Maybe, your mother and grandmother were involved in that, and art, right? And you cross all those things. I've known Chuck for 30 years. I couldn't believe that, Chuck, that it was actually 30 years. I was counting it up. Couldn't be so. Now, you may know him as an engineer, someone who studied disinfection and water treatment. Many of you know him there, and reuse. But I know him as someone who started a whole field. QMRA, Quantitative Microbial Risk Assessment. How many people started a field? He published the first paper that began the field in 1983. And this framework is now used by EPA, the World Health Organization, other governments. It's been codified in law by Australia and the Netherlands. You may also know him as someone who is super smart, no nonsense, and says what needs to be said. But I know him as someone who is patient, especially with people who are learning to maybe like math. I also know him as someone who dances at midnight in the Louvre. I do. I know him as someone who is generous with his time, always supports good science and his colleagues. And I know him as someone who always supports students and the next generation. And I want to tell you a story from one of his students. I want to end with that. So I asked a couple of his students to send me some stories, and I chose this one. I count myself as one of the most fortunate persons in research, as I had one of the best mentors at one of those critical early stages. Chuck gave me skills I needed. He took someone who frankly messed up a lot in undergraduate school. I had a 2.2 GPA, and he took a chance on me. He put up with this kid for the first year, despite messing up. In the process, I learned risk and engineering sciences beyond what I originally thought I could. In the process, I learned to take time to think. I learned to think about responses and ideas. I became a better person. In the process, I also met my wife, whom I adore more than anyone. I can truly say that Chuck is the reason for my wonderful life as it stands now, a state of things I can't and don't want to imagine any other way. That's from one of your students, Chuck. It's one of my favorite stories, and I have many others, but I will refrain. So please help me in welcoming my friend and my colleague, Chuck, to the podium and congratulate him on this well-deserved recognition.
So on behalf of the National Water Research Institute, the Joan Irvine Smith Athalie Clarke Foundation, and everybody in this room, and all your colleagues in the water industry, I'm pleased to bestow upon you the Clarke Prize. Something extra.
Thank you.